Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. Now, we often hear about big data and the kind of insights that can be derived from it. But what does all this mean in the real world? Well, a UK-headquartered company publicly listed on the NASDAQ called Wejo is a global leader in connected vehicle data. And they're on a mission to revolutionise the way we live, work and travel by transforming and interpreting real-time vehicle data. Now, the company enables smarter mobility by organising, wait for this, 12 trillion data points from approximately 12 million vehicles and more than 59 billion journeys globally across multiple brands, makes, models, etc. So in the words of Keanu Reeves, whoa. This is a great story. So I've invited Sarah Larner onto the podcast to join me today, and her passion and enthusiasm for this subject just shines. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Chester here in the UK, where Sarah is waiting to share her story. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do, and maybe share your origin story too?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Neil, Sarah Larner, EVP of Strategy and Innovation at Wejo. I've been with Wejo now for almost 8 years, and Wejo is a software as a service business. We enable autonomous, electric and connected vehicle data to be processed, analysed, and we turn that into real-time insights and analytics that can be consumed by the marketplace. Wejo exists because we're absolutely obsessed about driving a safer, smarter, more sustainable future using data. So my background actually is I'm from financial services. And when I met Richard, our founder and CEO, initially sort of 9 or 10 years ago now, I was very much working within the insurance space and had worked with insurers that were really using telemetry for the first time to gather vehicle data. So obviously, you know, insurers, these huge, big organizations that have built risk and rating models on the wealth of data they've got access to. And a couple of decades ago now, we have these black boxes that we could put in vehicles to collect data. And this opened up a wealth of new data that as insurers, we're really excited to get our hands on and understand. And as they say, the data tells the truth, right? So I can remember all that time ago, we were like, oh, if you're speeding, if you're harsh braking, you're definitely a bad insurance risk. And that, you know, the data always doesn't tell you what you think. So maybe not. But actually, that wasn't the case. And I think at the time, it's a long time ago now, but probably the most indicative of risk in the data was whether or not you shopped at Marks and Spencer's. So take from that what you will. But when I met Richard, Richard had obviously got this vision for how data could be used to transform a mobility future. So Richard, huge motorsport fan, and also had a successful data businesses prior to the vision for Wejo. So he saw how data was being used in motorsport. He knew that level of connectivity and capability was coming to regular passenger vehicles now. And he believed that when you get that intersection of data volume, data complexity, there's almost always a need for a data engine to kind of manage that capability. And so the Wejo vision was born. I could see the massive applications that insurance could benefit from in the future, but obviously many more as well, right? So mapping, navigation, repair and diagnostic, fleet, retail. So put simply, anyone that's currently using a proxy for vehicle data today, absolutely are customers or target customers of Wejo as well.
Wow, there's a lot to unpack on your own personal story there, because you mentioned things like the financial industry, insurance, data, technology. Is technology something that you've always been passionate about, or did something just light that spark in you in your career?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think irritatingly, Neil, I like a problem.
Yeah.
And if I see a problem, I don't like to leave it. I like to keep picking at it until I understand it. What are the options? How do we get around it? And naturally, my career started over 20 years ago now, actually, as an underwriter in financial services. But my natural curiosity for, why are we doing it this way? What does the data tell us? Why is that the outcome? Kind of took me down the technology and data route, and then ultimately to where I am today. So to be working at Wejo, where I believe we have such a transformative power of igniting this change in mobility and a mobility revolution is a dream for me. Obviously keeps me busy. I think I've aged a decade a year over the last 8 years I've been here, but I love it. I love it.
And when I was doing a bit of research on Wejo, I quickly learned that you're on the NASDAQ, and I also read that the company enables smarter mobility by organising, there's some big stats here, 12 trillion data points from approximately 12 million vehicles and more than 59 billion journeys globally across multiple brands, makes, models, etc., and then standardising and enhancing those streams of data on a vast scale. It just sounds phenomenal and incredible to unpack. So to do that, can you maybe set the scene and just walk me through a use case that will just help listeners understand how that might work for them in their world and who your customers are too? Yeah,
absolutely. And it's truly big data, right? It's almost like the stats that you see at the beginning of Star Wars. We've got 10 petabytes of data, which is enormous. It's truly big data. But the way I'd explain it is, I think, we're all familiar with a smartphone. I think most of us have one as well. New vehicles are literally smartphones on wheels, right? They're connected, they're capable, the sensors within the vehicle all talk to each other, and that goes through a central telecommunications unit. And that unit is SIM-enabled and has the ability to transmit data out of the vehicle. So today we probably benefit from a lot of the vehicle's ability to communicate with itself without realizing it. And what I mean by that is, if you're driving along and it's raining and your windscreen wipers automatically come on, or if it's dark and your headlights automatically come on, this is because the sensors in the windscreen or the sensors in the headlights are detecting a change of environment and they're reacting as a result of it. So the ability to communicate that data inside the car is hugely powerful, but the ability to use that data outside of the vehicle for things like mobility and transportation is extremely valuable as well. And that's what Wejo does. We take data directly from the vehicle where there is clear consent. So as a business, right from the very beginning, we thought of ourselves as custodians of the data, right? We wanted to make sure that the drivers were clearly and transparently consenting to their data being used, but that they understood that value exchange and they benefited from that. So whether that's live mapping and navigation, in the future as well, things like being able to auto pay for parking, auto tolling, my favorite, fueling on demand. Please, let's get to fueling on demand as soon as possible. But all these applications, I guess the word I would use is a ubiquitous life. I think we've all become accustomed to this ubiquitous life that our phone brings to us. I book a hotel, it pre-populates it in my calendar. Amazing. The vehicles themselves and the Wejo technology now can enable such a more ubiquitous life in our vehicles, where literally it becomes more seamless. You're going to a destination, a car parking spot could be reserved for you. You could auto pay for it. You go through a toll booth, it'll auto pay for it. You're short on fuel, you're parked in NASDAQ car park, someone's going to come and refuel it. So the smarter element of the safer, smarter and sustainable future we imagine is bringing this more ubiquitous experience to drivers.
And I think if we were to go back 5-10 years ago, the prospect of unlocking valuable insights from 12 trillion data points would just have been a pipe dream. It's just unthinkable. But thankfully, technology has changed all that. So as this is a tech podcast, can you tell me a little more about the tech that makes all that possible?
Yeah, so Adept is our core platform, and Adept is our automotive data exchange and platform technology. So great that we've got an acronym in there. And it's a data processing engine that's really tailor-made and highly tuned for connected vehicle data. So connected vehicles have anywhere between 150 and 2,000 sensors that make sense outside of the vehicle. We capture that data every 1 to 3 seconds and stream it in near real time. So we talk about it being less than 60 seconds, but more often it's actually less than 20 seconds. And we ingest those huge quantities of dense and sensor-rich data. And Adept itself is made up of multiple applications and services, all of which are containerized. And that allows us to deploy them into multiple clouds and multiple regions so that we've got that reliability and that continuous service anywhere in the globe, because frankly, we're working with automakers all over the globe. So it enables that continuity of service at a very low latency, high frequency level for millions of vehicles every single second of the day, every day of the week.
And I suspect we will have some people listening when they hear big data and insurance companies in the same data, they often will automatically assume that it's about the insurance company working against them rather than for them. And one of the things that stood out for me and why I invited you on the podcast today is I was reading that Wejo actually partners with ethical and like-minded companies and organisations that are on more of a mission to turn data into insights that unlock value for consumers rather than working against them. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I said earlier that, right at the beginning when Wejo was created and we were speaking about our core values, having this ethical approach, being custodians of the data, because, we're all humans at Wejo, but most of us are drivers, right? So it really was about us as well as about our customers and our target audience. And so data for good has been something that has always underpinned everything we've done. And when we're looking at new use cases, we're looking at new partnerships, we've always got that data for good measure. Do I, as a driver, benefit from this? Am I supportive of it? Am I happy to partake in it? And if we answer no, we don't do it, right? So an example of one of the partnerships that I'm most proud of and most excited with is Purdue University over in the US. Fantastic graduate program for young engineers that are starting to work in the smart mobility space. And one of the use cases we collaborate on is work zone safety. And when I met the team and they were talking to me about work zone fatalities, and apparently they reached a 16-year high back in 2020, where thousands of people were injured for carrying out their work in a work zone on the road. And what they were looking to do is say, how can we use this real-time data to improve the safety of workers on the road? So it's starting to look at looking at behaviours that are becoming problematic, that are indicating the work zone isn't set up correctly, and working collaboratively with the civil engineering companies to improve that. That programme of work has been going on now for almost a year, and already they are making implementations in the US to work zones that are significantly improving the safety of those work zones. And so for me, to be able to see what we're enabling, really truly saving lives, that for me just underpins and motivates me more about the work that we're doing at Wejo.
And if we were to zoom out, can you just expand a little on how technology is enabling Wejo in creating this smarter, safer, and ultimately more sustainable world for all too?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as you said yourself, technology is maturing at a rapid pace, right? And even since Wejo started 8 years ago, we've kind of gone from 3G to 4G to 5G capability. Yeah. And so the benefits that you see in terms of the data that you're able to process, the speed you're able to process it, and the accuracy of that data, even in a short window, has improved massively. In fact, Wejo recently announced our efforts within our neural edge technology. And what that just means, Neil, is we're taking all of the processing that we do right now in the cloud, and we're looking at moving that to edge of network and edge of vehicle. So when you think about things like work zone safety, getting data in sub 20 seconds, that's fine. Okay, that's great. That's very rapid. You can make changes. If you think about things like autonomous vehicle, or you think maybe I'm now sat at traffic lights that are connected and enabled, 20 seconds is a really, really long time, and it's not fast enough. So with Neural Edge, what we're looking to do is get our capability closer to vehicle so that we can do more of that processing at point of collection, offboarding the insights and analytics, and looking to really, really squeeze the time in which it takes from vehicle through to end user.
And another big topic right now is autonomous vehicles. And a lot of people think it's a long way away. But I saw in Phoenix, these cars driving around the road on their own in Arizona. And also in Vegas, if you go, I think it's Lyft, you can summon an autonomous vehicle there. So it's already happening. And the reason I bring this up was I was also reading that you've got this autonomous vehicle platform that is helping to accelerate AV development and adoption. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And Neil, I guess, first of all, if you think about why Wejo really has a place and why we fit, every single OEM speaks a different data language. So, BMW, General Motors, Ford, Volkswagen, every single vehicle speaks a different data language. There's no standard in industry. And then if you think about on the other side of it in the marketplace, so whether that is insurance or mapping and navigation, insurance company A doesn't want to have to deal with multiple different types of languages and formats in order to be able to understand and pull that consistent information back. So Wejo sits right in the middle. So we take all the data in from the automakers and we standardize that into one common data format within our ADEPT platform. And so when it goes out of the platform to our consumers, it's in one common data language. If you now think about the importance and the relevance of that in autonomous vehicle, part of autonomous vehicle development and acceleration is one, the ability for the vehicle to perceive its surroundings and to be able to make those decisions on board. Great. There's some fantastic developments there. But two, they're going to have the ability to communicate with each other. So what happens when a Cruise meets a Waymo? And they speak a different language? How are they going to decide, well, who's going to go first on that junction or what happens next? And so Wejo's autonomous vehicle platform seeks to do two things. First of all, we want to help the autonomous vehicle developers better anticipate the road ahead. So naturally, the AVs can perceive their surroundings. They don't necessarily know what's going on ahead. And with Wejo's mobility data, we're able to inform them about what that ahead picture looks like, which is really important for decisions they make. Secondly, we can enable the autonomous vehicle community to communicate with each other, which is going to be hugely important as we see an increase of autonomous vehicles on the road.
Incredibly cool what you're doing there. And I also read that Wejo Labs is looking at providing data scientists with this self-serve access to one of the largest data set of connected vehicle data to perform advanced analytics too. Again, sounds quite exciting, but can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, so Wejo Labs was really born out of this need of how do we enable as many businesses, as many people as quickly as possible, because that's the only way we're going to make a significant shift in smart mobility. And as we spoke about before, it's truly big data, and not many businesses have the capability or desire to actually want to deal with and manage with that multiple volume and complexity of data. So what Wejo Labs does, very simply, it takes connected vehicle data and it allows organizations organizations to view traffic and driving events in granular detail with lane level precision, but without the need to manipulate and manage the raw data, the large volumes of data itself. So right now, the companies that we're working with are things like researchers and engineers who want to conduct more innovative mobility studies, and a lot of universities and consultancies actually that are looking to understand how they recommend changes to road infrastructure, city planning, smart mobility, and they're using that trend data and that analytical data to be able to inform future decisions. Right now, we're also working on how we move that more to what we call digital twins and meta twins. So it's taking it the next step further, if you like. So I always think kind of what's that film that Tom Cruise is in, where he's got the Minority Report, isn't it? Where he's moving data around on the screen. So right now, if you want to make changes to the road infrastructure, or actually hugely relevant in autonomous vehicle, because if you want to go and test your vehicle on a real area of road, you have to physically run the road, map the road, video the road, submit it. And there's a lot of steps you need to go through. And at Wejo, we said, hey, I think we can solve for that, because we can provide you with a digital twin of that city, of that road, and you can map the road with your AV without actually putting the AV on the road. You can do it in a digital simulation. And that sort of concept applies into the verticals as well. So if you think about repair and diagnostic, the ability to be able to start visualizing some of these issues on the vehicle in what's essentially a digital twin of the vehicle is hugely exciting for how we can advance, how we can use advanced technology to enable some of the future applications of this data too.
And just listening to you talk there, I can almost hear light bulb moments going off around the world. And I do think we're just beginning to explore the art of the possible around this area. And I'm curious, though, it is very early days, but what can we expect from Wejo in the next few years? And what excites you about that future?
Yeah, lots and lots. So I think right now we're on this pathway where we're just opening up access to these insights and intelligence that has just not been possible before, right? And we very much started in the traffic and mobility space because it's a huge immediate opportunity to improve safety, to improve sustainability on the roads, and to make all of our journeys safer and smarter. But we're rapidly expanding that now. So I think what you'll see from us, Neil, is I really want Wejo to be that go-to platform across all sectors for mobility data, and really see us igniting that mobility revolution. You know, that's how I think about it. It's like, what are you going to do with this? You know, we can't wait to see what you do with this. So we're working across insurance, we're working across retail, transport and logistics. I mean, we work with a major logistics company that I should probably have shares in, because I think I get a parcel at least every day. But they told us that they see 30% more routes and roads using our solution than they had before, and that has driven significant efficiency into their business. And that just kind of blows your mind, because you're like, wow, that's one company, one application. But wow. So we're going to keep broadening the verticals for which can benefit from this. Huge amounts of growth across multiple sectors. I'm currently working with Sompo Holdings over in Japan. Really exciting company, really committed to digital transformation and smart mobility. And when I look at the work that they're doing over there with the government, and really bringing the AV agenda forwards, you'll also see Wejo starting to have more presence globally as well. So broadening our sectors, broadening our global reach, and ultimately, who knows, cars on Mars, I don't know, but autonomous vehicles, electric vehicles, we're absolutely at the forefront of wanting to drive those agendas forwards.
Cars on Mars. You need to buy that URL quickly. Now, I always like to end the podcast on a positive note and a light-hearted question. So none of us are able to achieve success without some help along the way. Is there a particular person who you're grateful towards who helped you get where you are?
One of the individuals that I would like to thank is our founder and CEO, Richard Barlow. Being a female in technology is not always easy, and I see loads of really great role models paving the way for future generations of women now, which is fantastic. But going back sort of 8 to 10 years when I first met Richard, there were still relatively few women in technology, and particularly automotive technology. And so I felt like Richard really understood what I was about, what I would do. He could see the passion that I had for the sector, and has always sponsored my own growth, development, exposure and opportunities within Wejo to grow and develop. And in hindsight now, looking back, I think if he hadn't have done that, it would have been much harder to kind of get within this sector and to be able to do the things that I have done over the last 8 years without that sponsorship. So I think Richard is someone that I'm hugely thankful for. But also, I think that approach of being able to kind of give people opportunities, give women opportunities in technology, and really encourage and nurture that new talent that's coming through is hugely important.
Wow, an incredible answer. Thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing that. And before I let you go, for anyone listening that just wants to find out more information about Wejo, everything that we talked about today, or even contact your team, what's the best starting point for everything?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you can jump onto our website, wejo.com. There's a contact us page. So you can email us at info@wejo.com. You can also find myself, Sarah Larner, and Wejo on our socials. So you can go to YouTube, you can use LinkedIn, or you can use our Twitter as well.
Fantastic. Well, I'll have those links to the show notes so people can find you nice and easily today. Love chatting with you today. I'm still mind blown by those stats that you dropped there, enabling smarter mobility by organising 12 trillion data points from 12 million vehicles and 59 billion journeys. It'll take me a few days to get over that one, but more than anything, just thank you for coming on here, sharing your story and the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Thanks, Neil. It's been an absolute pleasure.
The fact that Wejo partners with ethical, like-minded companies and organisations to turn data into insights that unlock value for consumers rather than work against them certainly leaves a lot to be hopeful for. Because with trusted data, underpinned by leadership in data privacy, I think that's where the magic happens. So kudos to Wejo, and I wish them all the best on their journey of creating a smarter, safer, more sustainable world for all. But that's just my takeaway. You've heard from me, you've heard from Sarah. Now over to you. I want to hear from you. I want you to enter the conversation. So please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram @NeilCHughes. Let's keep this conversation going. Now, I will return tomorrow with another guest and another topic. So a big thank you for listening as always. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.